32nd position again. Last position again. Even Musa that sells groundnut passed you. 32 students. And you came 32nd.
Every single term is the same embarrassment. Your mates are making their parents proud while you keep disgracing this family. Answer me. Why are you silent now? From today, no more football. If you fail again, you will leave that school completely.
Mama, why am I different? The other children understand things fast. They read once and remember. They solve mathematics easily, but me, it's like my brain refuses to work.
Ayo, listen to me carefully. Not everybody is created to shine the same way.
And the winner is Odogu's Woodworks.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. My son, my champion, I'm so proud.
Congratulations, young man. You make us all proud.
People saw a boy who learned too slowly. A father saw disappointment. A village saw failure. But a mother saw something nobody else could see. This is the story of how a mother's faith turned a mocked boy into a man the world would celebrate. The rain had already started falling before Ayo got home. Not heavy rain. Just the kind of slow evening rain that somehow made bad days feel even worse. Ayo stood quietly near the door, clutching his school result with both hands. His uniform was dirty. His socks didn't match. And from the way he kept breathing nervously, anybody could tell something was wrong. The moment his father entered the house, the entire room became tense immediately. His father looked exhausted, sweaty, frustrated from work. And unfortunately for Ayo, today was result day, Daddy. Ayo's voice was barely audible. His father dropped his bag carelessly. What is it? Ayo slowly stretched the paper toward him. Our results came out today. The father collected it without even looking at Ayo properly. At first he nodded casually while scanning through the paper. Then suddenly, his face changed. Completely. His eyes stopped at one particular line. Position 32nd out of 32 students. Silence. Dead silence. Then, Ayo, the younger children in the room, immediately froze. Ayo flinched. His father looked at him like he had just committed a crime. Last again? Ayo swallowed hard. I tried. Tried what? The man slammed the paper against the table angrily. Do you know how much I pay for your school fees? Nobody spoke. Even the rain outside suddenly sounded louder. His father laughed bitterly and shook his head. 32 students. He held up the result paper again. And you came 32nd. The disappointment in his voice hurt more than the shouting itself. Even Musa that hawks groundnut after school passed you. Ayo lowered his head immediately. At this point, he already knew the insults that were coming. He had heard them too many times before. Your mates are making their parents proud while you, the man pointed angrily at him. You keep disgracing this family? Ayo's eyes slowly filled with tears, but he didn't cry. He was already used to this. At that age, Ayo had already mastered one painful skill. Pretending his heart was not breaking, his father threw the result paper on the floor. No more football. No more useless friends. And if you fail again, he pointed toward the door. You will leave that school completely. Ayo nodded slowly. Okay, Daddy. But the truth was, Ayo himself no longer understood why school felt impossible for him. Later that night, while everybody else was inside eating dinner, Ayo sat alone behind the house under the leaking roof. Quiet, broken, ashamed. He kept staring at the muddy ground like it had answers. Then suddenly, Ayo, his mother's voice. Soft, gentle, the complete opposite of his father's. Ayo quickly wiped his eyes before turning around. And the moment Mama Tola saw his face, she already knew what had happened. Cut. Mama Tola stood there quietly for a few seconds, looking at her son. The weak lantern, light from inside the house, barely reached where he was sitting. But even in the darkness, she could see the pain on his face clearly. Ayo quickly looked away, as if he was ashamed for her to see him like that. Mama Tola slowly sat beside him on the old wooden bench. The wood creaked softly under their weight. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Only the sound of rainwater dripping from the roof filled the silence. Then she spoke gently. Let me see your result. Ayo hesitated. Not because he didn't want to show her, but because he was tired. Tired of disappointing people. Slowly, he brought out the folded result sheet from his pocket and handed it to her. Mama Tola opened it carefully. Her eyes moved across the paper silently. Mathematics failed. English failed, basic science failed, then finally 32nd position, last again. Ayo couldn't even look at her face. He was waiting for it, the disappointment, the sigh, the frustration. But instead, Mama Tola simply folded the paper gently and kept it beside her. No shouting, no insults, nothing. That alone almost made Ayo cry. "You're not angry?" Mama Tola turned toward him slowly. "Should I be?" Ayo blinked rapidly. "Daddy is angry," she sighed softly. "Your father is worried." Ayo looked down again. "But maybe he's right." Mama Tola's expression changed immediately. "Ayo," the boy swallowed hard. Then finally, the question he had been hiding for years came out. "Mama," his voice cracked. "Why am I different?" That question hit harder than she expected. Ayo continued quietly. "The other children understand things fast. They read once and remember. They solve mathematics easily. But me," he looked down at his trembling fingers. "It's like my brain refuses to work." Mama Tola's eyes slowly became watery. But she controlled herself, because she knew this moment was important. Very important. "Ayo," she gently held his hand. "Listen to me carefully." The boy looked at her. "Not everybody is created to shine the same way." Ayo stayed quiet. "You may not be the best in class," she touched his chest softly. "But that does not mean there's nothing special inside you." Ayo looked unconvinced. "But what if I never become anything?" That question broke her heart completely. There are certain questions children ask that parents pray they never hear. Mama Tola moved closer and wiped his tears carefully. "Look at me." Ayo slowly raised his head. "I don't care what teachers say. I don't care what people think. One day," she smiled softly, "you will make this family proud." Ayo stared at her quietly, as if he wanted to believe her, but didn't know how. Then Mama Tola tapped his forehead playfully, and beside a tiny smile appeared on her face. "You are too handsome to fail in life." Ayo laughed softly for the first time that night. Small, but real. And in that moment, for the first time after a long while, Ayo felt a little less broken. What Ayo didn't know was, his mother was fighting a battle nobody else could see. The battle of keeping her son's hope alive. The next morning, school became worse. The next morning, Ayo walked into school already feeling tired. Not physical tiredness. The kind that sits inside your chest. The kind that makes you feel unwanted before anybody even says a word. The moment he entered the classroom, two boys sitting near the window started laughing immediately. "Look who finally came." Mr. Last Position himself. The other students laughed. Ayo pretended not to hear them and quietly went to his seat at the back of the class. His usual seat, the seat nobody wanted. At some point, Ayo stopped trying to defend himself. Because when people mock you every day, silence starts feeling easier. A few minutes later, their mathematics teacher entered the classroom. Mr. Benson, strict, hot-tempered, always angry. The entire class stood up immediately. "Good morning, sir. Sit down." The teacher began writing mathematical equations on the board quickly. Fractions, decimals, multiplication. The chalk moved so fast that Ayo was already confused before the lesson even started properly. Meanwhile, the other students were answering confidently. "Sir, the answer is 48. "No, sir, it's 52. Mr. Benson nodded proudly. "Good." Then suddenly, his eyes landed on Ayo. The smile on his face disappeared immediately. "Ayo," the entire class became quiet. Ayo froze. "Stand up." Slowly, Ayo stood to his feet. Benson pointed at the board. "Solve number 3. Ayo looked at the equation. The numbers looked like complete strangers to him. His heartbeat became faster immediately. Silence. Mr. Benson frowned. "Well?" Ayo opened his mouth slightly, but nothing came out. A few students started giggling already. "Ayo." The teacher folded his arms. "Are you sleeping?" More laughter. Ayo's palms became sweaty. I don't know the answer, sir." The entire classroom exploded with laughter. One boy nearly fell from his chair laughing. "Of course he doesn't know." Another student shouted, "Sir, leave him alone before he starts crying." More laughter. Ayo felt his ears burning with embarrassment. Mr. Benson shook his head in frustration. "Honestly, I don't understand why you're still in this class." The laughter slowly died down. Even Ayo looked shocked. The teacher continued, "You have repeated this class twice already, and still nothing." Ayo lowered his head immediately. Those words hurt because they were true. There is something painful about being insulted publicly, but it hurts even more when the insult sounds true. "Mr." Benson sighed deeply and carried his attendance notebook. "Follow me to the principal's office." The class immediately reacted. "Ooh!" Some students laughed again, others whispered among themselves. Ayo slowly carried his worn-out school bag. His legs suddenly felt heavy. As he followed the teacher outside, he could already feel students staring at him through the windows, like he was some kind of disgrace. The walk to the principal's office felt longer than usual. Then finally, Mr. Benson stopped in front of the office door. He knocked once and entered. The principal looked up from his desk. "Yes?" Mr. Benson sighed tiredly. "Sir," he glanced at Ayo briefly. "I think we need to talk about this boy." Ayo's heart dropped instantly. The principal adjusted his glasses slowly and looked at Ayo from head to toe, not with anger, not even with surprise, just exhaustion. The kind teachers have when they've completely given up on a student. "Sit down." Ayo sat carefully on the edge of the chair like someone waiting for punishment, Mr. Benson remained standing, frustrated, impatient. "Sir, this cannot continue." The principal sighed quietly. Mr. Benson continued. "He cannot read properly. He can't solve basic mathematics. He forgets almost everything we teach him." Ayo kept staring at the floor. Each word landed like a stone on his chest. "And the worst part," the teacher added, "the other students are beginning to mock the class because of him." The principal leaned back slowly. Then finally he spoke. "Ayo?" The boy looked up nervously. "How old are you now?" 14, sir." The principal nodded slowly. "Yet you are still in this class." Ayo swallowed hard. The room suddenly felt too hot. Sometimes, the most painful thing about failure is watching adults discuss your future while you sit there helpless. The principal folded his hands on the table. "Call your mother tomorrow." Ayo's heart sank immediately. Not again. The principal continued gently. "I need to speak with her." Ayo nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." The next afternoon, Mama Tola arrived at the school wearing her faded wrapper and old sandals. The moment she entered the school compound, some students immediately recognized her. "That's Ayo's mother." The dull boy, she heard the whispers, but pretended not to. One thing poverty teaches people is how to survive embarrassment with dignity. Mama Tola reached the principal's office and knocked softly. "Come in." She entered nervously. The principal offered her a seat. "Good afternoon, Ma." "Good afternoon, sir." Mr. Benson was already seated there. His expression was serious, too serious. Mama Tola immediately sensed bad news. The principal cleared his throat carefully. "Madam Tola," he paused briefly. "We are worried about Ayo." Her fingers tightened around her handbag immediately. "Mr. Benson leaned forward. "The truth is, your son is not coping academically." Mama Tola stayed quiet. "We've tried extra lessons. We've repeated classes. We've even asked students to help him." The principal sighed deeply. "But there's been no improvement." Silence, heavy silence. Then finally, the words came. "Maybe." The principal removed his glasses slowly. "School is simply not for him." Mama Tola's face changed immediately. "Mr. Benson continued carefully. "There are other skills children can learn outside academics. We don't want him to keep suffering like this." Outside the office window, Ayo stood quietly, listening. Every word entered his chest like a knife. Children always hear the conversations adults think they're hiding. Inside the office, Mama Tola finally spoke. Softly. "But he's trying." Mr. Benson shook his head. "Trying is not enough anymore." The principal sighed sympathetically. "We're only thinking about his future." Mama Tola looked down briefly. Then suddenly, she straightened up. And for the first time since entering the office, her voice became firm. "My son is not useless." The room became quiet immediately. "He may learn differently." She looked at both men directly. "But I know my child, Mr. Benson exchanged glances with the principal. Mama Tola continued. "One day, people will see what I see in him." The principal looked unconvinced. But Mama Tola had already made up her mind. She stood up slowly. "Thank you, sir." Then she turned and walked out. Outside the office, she met Ayo standing there. Their eyes met immediately. Ayo looked ashamed, broken, like someone expecting rejection. Then quietly, he asked the question he feared most. "Mama," his voice trembled. "Do you also think I'm a failure?" Mama Tola froze. And in that moment, she realized just how close her son was to giving up on himself. For a few seconds, Mama Tola could not speak. She simply stared at her son, at the sadness in his eyes, at the fear hiding behind his question. "Mama, do you also think I'm a failure?" That sentence kept echoing in her head. Sometimes parents don't realize how much damage the world has done to their children until the child finally speaks. Mama Tola quickly held Ayo's face. Never say that again. Ayo looked away immediately. But everybody says it. His voice was painfully calm, like someone who had already accepted defeat. The teachers, the students, even Daddy. Mama Tola's eyes became watery instantly. But she refused to cry, not here, not in front of him. Instead, she placed her hand on his shoulder gently. Come. That evening, the sky was quiet. No rain this time. Just soft wind moving through the trees behind their house. Mama Tola and Ayo sat outside on the wooden bench again. The same bench where Ayo usually came whenever life became too heavy. For some time, neither of them spoke. Then Mama Tola finally broke the silence. Do you know something funny? Ayo looked at her quietly. When you were small, she smiled softly. You used to break all my cooking spoons. Ayo blinked in confusion. What? You would carry knife and start carving the wood. Despite himself, Ayo laughed faintly. You nearly destroyed my kitchen. For the first time that day, his shoulders relaxed a little. Mama Tola looked at him carefully. You've always loved creating things. Ayo shrugged weakly. That one is different. Why? Because it's not important. Mama Tola's expression changed immediately. Who told you that? Ayo stayed quiet. The dangerous thing about constant criticism is that after a while, children begin repeating the insults to themselves. Mama Tola shifted closer. Ayo, listen to me carefully. The seriousness in her voice made him look up immediately. Not everybody is born to become doctor. Not everybody is born to become professor. She tapped his chest softly. And not everybody's gift lives inside books. Ayo stared at her silently. But what if I never succeed? Mama Tola smiled sadly. When a seed is planted, she pointed toward the ground. Does it become a tree immediately? Ayo shook his head slowly. No, it takes time. The wind blew softly around them. And some trees, she looked at him meaningfully, grow slower than others. Ayo's eyes slowly dropped, but they still grow. Silence, deep silence. Then Mama Tola suddenly spoke again. One day, her voice became softer. People will celebrate you. Ayo almost smiled. Me? Yes, you. How? I don't know yet. That answer surprised him. Mama Tola laughed softly. But I know God did not create you for nothing. Ayo stared at the ground quietly. Then slowly, for the first time in a very long while, he started believing maybe, just maybe, his life was not completely hopeless. That night, Ayo slept with something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The next morning, something unexpected happened in school. Something that would begin changing Ayo's life forever. The next morning, Ayo entered school expecting another terrible day, another insult, another embarrassment, another reminder that he was the dull boy everybody had already given up on. He quietly sat at the back of the class and brought out his old exercise book. A few minutes later, a different teacher entered the classroom. Not Mr. Benson, this was Mrs. Sandra, the school's art teacher. Unlike most teachers in the school, she was calm, observant. The kind of teacher who noticed things other people ignored. Good morning, class. Good morning, Ma. She dropped a small carton on the table and smiled. Today, we're doing something different. The students immediately became excited. Mrs. Sandra opened the carton and brought out pieces of clay, cardboard, wood scraps, and small carving tools. I want everybody to create something. The students exchanged excited glances immediately. No books today? One student shouted happily. The class laughed. Mrs. Sandra smiled. No books. Ayo slowly looked up for the first time that morning. Use your imagination. She began sharing the materials across the classroom. Create anything you want. The classroom quickly became noisy with excitement. Some students started making random shapes immediately. Others played around instead of working. But Ayo became strangely quiet, focused. Mrs. Sandra noticed immediately. For the first time in a classroom, Ayo did not look lost. Slowly, he picked up a small piece of wood. Then another. His fingers moved carefully, naturally, like someone touching something familiar. Minutes passed, then an hour. The noisy classroom slowly became quieter. Because one by one, students started noticing Ayo's work. Even the boys who usually mocked him stopped talking. Ayo was carving a bird, not an ordinary bird. Every feather looked detailed. The wings curved perfectly. Even the eyes looked alive. The entire class slowly gathered around his desk. Wait, he made that. No way, Mrs. Sandra walked closer carefully. Then she froze. For a moment, she said nothing. She simply stared. Ayo immediately became nervous. Sorry, ma. He quickly lowered the carving. I know it's not perfect. Mrs. Sandra looked at him slowly. Not perfect? She collected the carving gently from his hand. The classroom became completely silent. Even Mrs. Sandra herself looked emotional. Some people spend years searching for talent, while others discover it by accident. Mrs. Sandra turned the carving around slowly. Every angle was beautiful, precise, detailed. Impossible for an ordinary beginner. Then she asked softly, Ayo, how did you learn to do this? Ayo shrugged awkwardly. I just like carving things. The students around him stared in disbelief. One boy whispered quietly, This dull boy made this. Mrs. Sandra immediately turned sharply. Never call him that again. The classroom fell silent instantly. Then she looked back at Ayo. And for the first time in years, a teacher looked at him with admiration instead of disappointment. That was the moment everything began changing. The day somebody finally saw value in the boy everybody else ignored. As the bell rang for closing hour, Mrs. Sandra kept staring at Ayo thoughtfully, like she had just discovered something important, something life-changing. And that evening, she decided to visit Ayo's mother. That evening, Mama Tola was outside roasting corn beside the roadside when she saw someone approaching from a distance. At first, she thought it was a customer. But as the person came closer, she recognized her immediately, Mrs. Sandra, Ayo's teacher. Mama Tola's heart skipped instantly. Parents of struggling children know this feeling. The moment you see a teacher coming toward you unexpectedly, your mind automatically prepares for bad news. Mama Tola quickly stood up nervously. Good evening, Ma. Good evening. Mrs. Sandra smiled warmly. I hope I'm not disturbing you. No, Ma. Mama Tola wiped her hands quickly on her wrapper. Please sit down. Mrs. Sandra sat on the small wooden stool beside the corn stand. For a few seconds, she simply watched Mama Tola quietly. Then finally, I met Ayo differently today. Mama Tola became confused immediately. Differently? Mrs. Sandra nodded slowly. That boy, she smiled faintly, has talent in his hands. Mama Tola blinked. She didn't understand. Sandra carefully brought out the wooden bird carving from her bag. The moment Mama Tola saw it, her eyes widened. Ayo made this? Mrs. Sandra nodded. And honestly, she looked back at the carving again. I've never seen anything like it from a child his age. Mama Tola collected it carefully. Her fingers trembled slightly, because for the first time, somebody was talking about her son with pride. Not pity, not frustration, pride. Sometimes one's positive sentence can heal years of pain. Sandra leaned forward slightly. Madam Tola, I don't think Ayo's problem is intelligence. Mama Tola listened carefully. I think he simply learns differently. Those words hit deeply, very deeply. Your son notices details most people miss. He creates naturally. He thinks with his hands. Mama Tola's eyes slowly became watery. All these years, she knew there was something special about her son. But she never had words to explain it, Mrs. Sandra continued. I really think he should learn a skill. What kind of skill? Carpentry, wood carving, furniture design. Mama Tola looked shocked. Carpentry? Mrs. Sandra nodded confidently. There's a carpenter in this town. Baba Kareem. The moment she mentioned the name, Mama Tola immediately recognized it. Everybody knew Baba Kareem. His workshop was one of the biggest in the community. He trains apprentices, Mrs. Sandra smiled softly. And I believe Ayo may become extraordinary there. Mama Tola looked down at the carving again. Then quietly, she asked a question that worried her most. But what if he fails there too, Mrs.? Sandra shook her head immediately. No, she smiled. People fail where they don't belong. Then she pointed gently at the carving. But this is where your son belongs. Silence. Deep emotional silence. Mama Tola stared at the bird carving for a long moment. Then slowly hope began rising inside her chest again. Real hope, not forced hope. Not desperate hope, real hope. That night, Mama Tola made a decision that would change her son's life forever. The next morning, she took Ayo to Baba Kareem's workshop. Then suddenly, move that wood properly. A loud voice echoed across the workshop. Baba Kareem. Tall, heavyset, strict-looking, the kind of man whose face alone could make apprentices nervous. He turned and noticed Mama Tola standing near the entrance. Yes? Mama Tola greeted respectfully. Good morning, sir. What do you want? She gently pushed Ayo forward. Sir, I came because of my son. Baba Kareem glanced at Ayo briefly, then back at her. What about him? Mama Tola swallowed nervously. I want him to learn work under you. Baba Kareem looked at Ayo again, longer this time. Ayo immediately lowered his head, then the man frowned. This one, the words stung instantly. Mama Tola forced a smile. Yes, sir. Baba Kareem shook his head immediately. No, just like that. No hesitation, no consideration, nothing. I'm not taking you apprentices. Mama Tola's face fell immediately. Please, sir, I said no. He pointed toward the apprentices working nearby. Do you know how difficult this work is? He looked at Ayo again. This boy looks too weak. Ayo's chest tightened immediately. Ayo was already used to rejection, but somehow it still hurt every single time. Mama Tola stepped forward desperately. He learns fast with his hands. Baba Kareem laughed shortly. That's what every parent says. The apprentices nearby started glancing at Ayo already. Whispering quietly, Mama Tola's voice softened. Please, Baba Kareem sighed impatiently. Madam, I don't have time for this. Then came the sentence that nearly broke Ayo completely. I don't train failures. Silence. Heavy silence. Ayo immediately looked down at the ground. His ears burned with shame. Even Mama Tola froze briefly. For a moment, it looked like Mama Tola would give up. Then suddenly, she slowly opened the nylon bag she had been holding and brought out money. Old squeezed notes, carefully folded, saved little by little over years. Baba Kareem looked down at it. This is all I have. Her voice trembled slightly. I've been saving it for a long time. Ayo turned sharply toward her in shock. He recognized that money immediately. That was her market savings. The money she protected more carefully than anything else. Mama Tola stretched it toward Baba Kareem with both hands. Please, her eyes became watery. Help my son find where he belongs. The workshop became strangely quiet. Even some apprentices stopped working to watch. Baba Kareem stared at the money silently. Then at Ayo, then back at Mama Tola. For the first time, his expression softened slightly. Just slightly. There is something powerful about a mother fighting for her child. Even stubborn hearts can feel it. Baba Kareem finally sighed deeply. Then collected the money slowly. Mama Tola held her breath. The man looked at Ayo directly. If you come here, his voice was firm again. You will work hard. Ayo nodded quickly. No laziness, no excuses, no crying. Yes, sir. Baba Kareem pointed deeper into the workshop. Come tomorrow by 6 a.m. Mama Tola's eyes widened instantly. Ayo almost couldn't believe it. The man turned away immediately. Let's see if you can survive here. As Mama Tola and Ayo stepped out of the workshop, Ayo looked at her quietly. Mama, she turned. Why did you use all your savings for me? Mama Tola smiled gently. Because unlike everybody else, she still believed her son was worth investing in. The next morning, Ayo arrived at Baba Kareem's workshop before sunrise. The sky was still dark. Most shops in the community had not even opened yet, but the workshop was already awake. The moment some apprentices noticed him, laughter started immediately. Look who came, the school failure. One skinny apprentice walked around Ayo mockingly. This boy wants to become carpenter? Another laughed loudly. He cannot even carry wood. The others burst into laughter. Ayo lowered his head immediately. Same embarrassment, different location. Then suddenly, hey! Baba Kareem's voice thundered across the workshop. Everybody straightened immediately. Work! The apprentices scattered quickly. Baba Kareem walked toward Ayo slowly. You came? Yes, sir. The man pointed toward a pile of rough wood nearby. Arrange those planks. Ayo nodded quickly. Days passed. Then weeks. Life in the workshop was hard, very hard. Ayo woke up before dawn daily. Swept the workshop, carried wood, cleaned tools, ran errands. The apprentice still mocked him constantly. Sometimes they hid his tools. Sometimes they deliberately sent him on useless errands. Then one evening, something happened. Baba Kareem had traveled to buy materials, leaving the apprentices to finish a customer's furniture design. But there was a problem. The decorative carving on the chair was difficult. Nobody could get it right. One apprentice hissed angrily. This design is impossible. Another threw down his tool in frustration. Then quietly, Ayo stepped closer. Can I try? The entire workshop went silent. Then laughter exploded immediately. Tunde nearly choked laughing. You? Please don't spoil the customer's chair. But Ayo ignored them. Slowly, he picked up the carving tools. And once his fingers touched the wood, something changed. His nervousness disappeared completely. His breathing slowed. His eyes focused. The workshop slowly became quiet again because Ayo's hands were moving differently, smoothly, naturally, like someone born for it. Pieces of wood fell gently to the floor as the design slowly appeared, curve after curve, pattern after pattern. Even the apprentices moved closer gradually. Nobody spoke anymore. 30 minutes later, Ayo stepped back quietly, finished. Silence, complete silence. The chair looked stunning. The carvings were so detailed they almost looked alive. One apprentice whispered softly, "Wait, he made this." At that exact moment, Baba Kareem returned. He looked around immediately. Why is everybody standing there? Nobody answered. Then his eyes landed on the chair. He froze. Slowly he walked closer, touched the carving carefully, turned toward the apprentices. Who did this? Nobody spoke for a second. Then slowly all fingers pointed at Ayo. Baba Kareem looked at him in disbelief. And for the first time since Ayo arrived at the workshop, the old carpenter truly looked at the boy differently. Ayo, yes sir, come here. Ayo stepped forward nervously. Did somebody help you? No sir. You copied this design from somewhere? Ayo shook his head. No sir. The old carpenter looked at him for a few more seconds, like he was trying to understand something. Then quietly, he handed the chair back to the customer who had come earlier. The man's eyes widened immediately. Ah, he touched the carving carefully. This is beautiful. One apprentice quickly spoke. Na ayo do am. The customer turned sharply. This boy? Nobody answered. The man walked toward Ayo slowly, then smiled. You made this? Ayo nodded nervously. The customer laughed in disbelief. You have gift, my boy. Gift. That word hit Ayo differently. For years, Ayo had been called slow, dull, failure, useless. That day was the first time somebody called him gifted. The customer looked back at Baba Kareem. I want this same boy to handle my dining table design. The workshop became silent again. From that day onward, things slowly started changing inside the workshop. Not immediately, but gradually. The apprentices who mocked Ayo began watching him differently. Whenever difficult carvings appeared, they called him. And Baba Kareem? The old man started observing Ayo carefully, very carefully. As weeks turned into months, Ayo's carvings became the talk of the community. Customers now entered Baba Kareem's workshop, asking questions like, where is that small boy that carves lions? Now the quiet apprentice there around? I want the boy that designed Chief Okoro's chair. At first, Ayo didn't know how to react to the attention. He was still the same boy who used to hide his report cards. Still the same boy teachers mocked openly. But now, people smiled when they saw him.
2 weeks later, news spread across Ijoma about the governor's cultural exhibition. It was the biggest art and craft competition in the entire state. Carpenters, sculptors, painters, designers, everybody wanted to participate. Winning the competition meant fame, money, big contracts, recognition across the state. The moment apprentices at Baba Kareem's workshop heard the news, excitement exploded immediately. Master, we have to enter. We can win this year. Even Baba Kareem looked interested because for years, his workshop had participated but never won first place. This competition was bigger than pride. For many local craftsmen, it was the opportunity that could change their entire lives. That evening, Baba Kareem gathered all the apprentices together. I have decided. Everybody became quiet immediately. We are entering the competition. Excited murmurs filled the workshop instantly. Then Baba Kareem continued. But only one person will represent this workshop. The excitement reduced immediately. Now it had become serious, very serious. Baba Kareem folded his arms. Over the next few days, I will watch everybody's work carefully. His eyes moved across the apprentices slowly. The best person will go. Tunde immediately smiled confidently. Most apprentices assumed he would be chosen. After all, he had spent years in the workshop before Ayo arrived. Meanwhile, Ayo stayed quiet at the back. He wasn't even expecting anything. People who spent years being overlooked often struggle to imagine themselves winning. The competition preparations began immediately. Every apprentice worked harder than ever before. The workshop became intense. Nobody joked around anymore. Even Tunde stopped mocking people and focused completely on impressing Baba Kareem. Meanwhile, Ayo worked quietly, carefully, patiently. Late at night after everybody left, he stayed behind carving, sometimes till midnight, sometimes till dawn. 3 days later, Baba Kareem finally announced his decision. The entire workshop gathered nervously. Even Tunde looked tense. Baba Kareem stepped forward slowly. I have chosen the representative. Nobody moved. Then his eyes landed on Ayo. The workshop became silent instantly. Ayo, complete silence. Even Ayo himself looked shocked. Tuna's face dropped immediately. Baba Kareem pointed toward the giant lion sculpture. That, he smiled proudly, is the best work this workshop has ever produced. Ayo could barely breathe. The apprentices slowly started clapping, some genuinely impressed, others jealous.
The governor's cultural exhibition was crowded, very crowded. People from different towns filled the large event center. Colorful fabrics, traditional music, beautiful artworks everywhere. Massive sculptures stood proudly across the hall while photographers moved around excitedly. For Ayo, it was overwhelming. He had never seen anything like this before. Just a few months earlier, Ayo was the boy teachers wanted removed from school. Now, his work was standing beside the best artists in the state. Inside the exhibition hall, participants arranged their works carefully. Meanwhile, judges moved around observing silently. Hours later, the judging began. The entire hall became tense. People whispered anxiously while judges moved from one artwork to another. Then finally, they reached Ayo's lion sculpture. One judge stopped immediately. Another moved closer. A third removed his glasses and bent down carefully. They examined every detail silently. The hall slowly became quiet around them. One judge whispered, "This is extraordinary." Another nodded slowly. One of the judges spoke proudly. "This young man is one of the most talented artists we've seen today." Then suddenly, the microphone echoed across the hall. "Attention everybody." The entire exhibition center became quiet. It was time to announce the winner, and Ayo's heart nearly stopped. The announcer adjusted the microphone. In third place, applause filled the hall. Ayo barely heard the name. His palms were already sweating badly. In second place, more applause. Still not him. Ayo's chest tightened immediately. For a second, doubt returned again. Maybe his work truly wasn't enough. Then finally, the announcer smiled widely. And the winner of this year's Governor's Cultural Exhibition. The hall became completely quiet. With the lion sculpture titled Strength Within, Ayo stopped breathing. "Is Ayodele Kareem?" For 1 second, Ayo froze completely, like his brain could not process what he just heard. Then suddenly, the hall exploded. Loud applause, cheers, people standing. Baba Kareem grabbed Ayo's shoulders immediately. "You won," Ayo blinked repeatedly. "What? You won?" The boy who once came last in class had just come first in the entire state. Tears instantly filled Ayo's eyes. Not small tears, the kind people cry after surviving years of pain. Then suddenly, his eyes found someone in the crowd. Mama Tola. She stood near the back of the hall with both hands covering her mouth, crying uncontrollably. The moment their eyes met, Ayo completely broke down emotionally. Because in that moment, he remembered everything. The insults, the report cards, the principal's office, the nights he cried secretly, the day his mother used all her savings for him. And now, all those painful moments suddenly meant something. Nobody there understood the full weight of Ayo's tears, because they only saw an artist winning. But Ayo saw a broken child finally becoming enough. 3 years later, Ijoma changed. Or maybe the people in Ijoma changed. Because now, whenever people mentioned Ayo's name, their voices sounded different. Respectful, proud, almost unbelievable. "The famous wood artist, you mean Mama Tola's son? Ah, that boy is gifted." Funny enough, the same community that once mocked Ayo had now started claim they always believed in him. Ayo's work had gone far beyond the state competition. Hotels in Lagos requested his designs. Restaurants wanted his carvings. Even wealthy businessmen now competed for his furniture pieces. At just 18, Ayo had become one of the youngest respected wood artists in the region. And Baba Kareem, the old carpenter, walked around proudly introducing Ayo to everybody. That one, he would smile proudly. "That is my son." One bright Saturday morning, Mama Tola was arranging roasted corn beside her roadside stand when a black SUV stopped in front of her. People nearby immediately turned to look. The car door opened, and Ayo stepped out, well-dressed, confident, successful. But the moment he smiled at his mother, he still looked like her little boy. Mama Tola smiled immediately in surprise. "Ayo, what are you doing here this early?" Ayo collected the tray from her hands gently. "Close for today." Mama Tola frowned. "Why?" Ayo grinned. "I want to show you something." About 30 minutes later, the car stopped in a quiet part of town. Mama Tola looked outside the window in confusion. The area was beautiful. New houses, clean streets, flowered compounds. Ayo, where are we? Ayo smiled softly. Come down first. Mama Tola stepped out slowly. Then she noticed a crowd standing nearby. Neighbors, workers, some of Baba Kareem's apprentices. Even Mrs. Sandra was there smiling proudly. Music played softly in the background. Mama Tola became confused immediately. What is happening? Then suddenly Ayo pointed forward. Mama, look. Slowly Mama Tola turned and froze completely. Standing before her was a beautiful house, elegant, painted cream and brown with large glass windows and a wide balcony. Flowers lined the compound beautifully. Mama Tola covered her mouth instantly. Her basket nearly slipped from her hand. Ayo, her voice trembled badly. Whose house is this? Ayo smiled emotionally. Yours. Silence, deep emotional silence. Mama Tola stared at him like she didn't understand what she just heard. What? Ayo walked toward her slowly. You said one day people would celebrate me. Tears already filled Mama Tola's eyes. So he placed a small key gently into her palm. I decided to celebrate you first. At that point, Mama Tola completely broke down. She burst into tears openly and held her son tightly. The crowd around them started clapping emotionally. Some women wiped tears from their eyes. The world saw a boy who came last in class, but a mother saw a future nobody else could see. As Mama Tola stood before her new home surrounded by cheering people, Ayo quietly looked up at the sky, smiling, because somewhere deep inside, the little boy who once asked, Mama, why am I different?, had finally found his answer.